Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 14-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. We have a big slate to get through today, a lot of large prizes to be won across the industry, so excited to go ahead and break this one down. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. That way you don't miss any new content that I upload. I'll be here all MLB season long breaking down these slates to help you guys become better MLB DFS players and help you win money night in and night out. Help you win some money consistently. That's the goal here on this channel. So stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day. And then don't forget to check out my premium content. That's linked below in the description. If you're getting really serious about MLB DFS, please go ahead and check that out. I promise you it will be worth the look. A lot of good stuff to be had in my premium package. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the slate today. As always, we like to go ahead and figure out the pitchers that we're going to play first, and then we'll break down the bats. And I like to do this by sorting my sheet by K-rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts, and the top guy on the slate today is going to be Garrett Cole, taking on the Detroit Tigers. He has a 38.4% K-rate overall, 16.3 swinging strike rate, 34.9% K-rate against righties, and a 42.2% K-rate against lefties, and then very good in the WOBA, the hard contact, the fly ball, and all of the above. Will occasionally give up the long ball, but other than that, this guy's just an absolute dominant pitcher. I'm looking at his matchup today. It doesn't get much better. Taking on this Detroit Tigers team that strikes out a ton. They have a 2.52 implied run total. Garrett Cole expected to absolutely dominant. He's priced at 12.2 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 10.5. Priced way up, and for good reason. Top arm on the slate when you're factoring in the K rate and the matchup. It doesn't get much better than Garrett Cole today, so love him, of course. The only thing is that I will mention, and we're going to talk about this when we get to bats, it looks like we have some major wins on the East Coast today. When I first looked at this, I was like, that can't be real. It looks like it's 31-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center in Yankee Stadium, which is just ridiculous. I mean, Yankee Stadium's a great home run ballpark as is, and then you factor in these winds, and it's like, that's going to be scary. The wind blowing out in Yankee Stadium, you can see on my on the screen, the home run's really, really good in Yankee Stadium. So we'll talk about that when we get to bats. I did do a double check on that. I looked at the weather forecast as far as like outside of the starting lineup screen, and it was looking like 26-mile-an-hour winds or something. And my general rule of thumb in DFS, MLB DFS, is if it's 10 miles or above, that's pretty significant. If it's like 20 miles or above, that's really significant. And it's looking like it's going to be like pushing 30 miles an hour to straightaway center. So we're going to talk about that when we get into bats, but that's a scary environment to be pitching in. Luckily for Garrett Cole, I think he's going to be missing a lot of bats. There's not going to be a lot of contact to be had, but if there is contact, that could be a little bit of a downside to playing Garrett Cole today. And maybe an argument for the Detroit bats. So, not to rant, but that's a pretty significant thing to note. And second on the slate, we have Shane Bieber taking on the Chicago White Sox. 33.7% K rate, 15.3 swinging strike rate, a 33% K rate against righties, and then a 34.4% K rate against lefties. Really, really good. Second guy on the slate that we're going to really want to be targeting. If it's not Garrett Cole, Shane Bieber is going to be the top option. I do think that with the matchup that Garrett Cole has, he does have some significant higher K upside. However, Shane Bieber could definitely match him. This guy's the real deal. Taking on the Chicago White Sox team, they have a 3.06 implied run total against him. He's a 134 favorite, and has been absolutely dominant the last 2 years. He's priced at 10.7 on DraftKings. He's actually priced more expensive than Garrett Cole, and so far in the season, we've seen him continue his really good form. 9 Ks, 13 Ks, 11 Ks, 12 Ks, 12 Ks, pretty much reaching double-digit Ks every single time he takes the mound. Elite stuff from Shane Bieber, and if you want to pivot to him instead of Garrett Cole, I have no issue with that on this slate. I don't think that you're crazy for doing that whatsoever. Freddie Peralta, third on the list, comes in with a 33.4% K rate overall, a 14.1 swinging strike rate, 33.3% K rate against righties, and then a 33.6% K rate against lefties. Does have a tendency of giving up some hard contact to those right-handed bats, and he is taking on a pretty tough matchup in the Los Angeles Dodgers. So these are the things that are a little bit of a downside to him. You could get him at lower ownership, and he's at 8K on FanDuel, and over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 8.7, and it has been very good. 7Ks, 7Ks, 10Ks, 8Ks. Lots of upside to be had. The only problem is 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 1 earned run the last 3 times out, so it hasn't had a complete all-around dominant performance. High strikeout side, some low ownership taking on that Los Angeles Dodgers team. Tournament play for sure. Then you got Yu Darvish taking on the San Francisco Giants. I think I'd prefer to go to Yu Darvish when you're factoring in the matchup and everything. He's taking on the San Francisco Giants, a 31.2% K rate overall, 36.4% K rate against righties, and then a 26.9% K rate against lefties. And when you're looking at this San Francisco Giants lineup, they're just not all too scary. It's in San Diego. Yu Darvish is a 197 favorite. He's priced at 11K on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they're going to price at 9.5. And as far as his recent performances, he's been giving up about 1 run a game, 9Ks and 9Ks the last 2 times out, pushing the double-digit K mark, and you get a slight discount to him from Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole. So he's up there in contention with the top arms on the slate. Robbie Ray taking on Atlanta is a guy that always has a ton of K upside. The problem is I'm not really all too interested in targeting him against this Atlanta squad because they are a very right-handed heavy lineup, and he does tend to struggle against righties. He's definitely viable in tournaments. Robbie Ray is always the guy that's going to be viable in tournaments, but just know that chances are he's either going to have a really good game or a not-so-good game. That's just kind of how he rolls. And he's pitching in Toronto, which isn't actually in Toronto. It's in Florida right now at the temporary site that they're playing on due to COVID-19 restrictions. So pretty hitter-friendly ballpark in Florida. Hitter-friendly. It's kind of a minor league setup. So that's a little bit of another not-so-fun thing. When we have Andrew Heaney right below him taking on the Seattle Mariners, he's been really good lately. A 28.3% K rate roll, a 13.5 swinging strike rate, 28.5% K rate against righties, and a 27.6% K rate against lefties. And he's taking on a Seattle Mariners team that strikes out a ton. And I do think that he's definitely a viable option on this slate today. Comes in as a 151 favorite, a 3.64 implied run total for the Seattle Mariners. And as mentioned, they just strike out a bunch. So I think that Andrew Heaney is going to be an interesting option in this one when you're looking at the K rate that he displays in the matchup. Definitely have some interest in him. Drew Smyly, that's definitely a no for me. Might be having some interest in targeting him with the bats as we get to there. And things are going to drop off real quick here as far as pitching. Like, we have some really elite pitchers in the top tier today. The next guy that we probably be looking to is Nathan Ivaldi taking on the Texas Rangers. We had talked about maybe targeting a Martin Perez last night against this Rangers squad because they've just been striking out so much. And the same rule is going to apply to Nathan Ivaldi tonight. A 24% K rate overall, 23.9% K rate against righties, and then a 24.2% K rate against lefties. Does have a tendency of giving up some hard contact to those lefties and can get himself in trouble. But he's taking on a Texas Rangers team that has been really struggling and just strikes out a ton. So I have a 3.67 implied run total. He is a 177 favorite. He's priced at 7.8 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at 8.2. I do think that he's a viable option in the mid-range due to the matchup. He's pretty, expected to get some run support here with the Red Sox taking on Arihara. Not exactly scared of them or the Rangers bullpen. So a good chance at the win here and a good chance at a decent amount of strikeouts in the mid-range. I have no issues with you going to Nathan Ivaldi. Continuing along, you got Michael Pineda taking on the Kansas City Royals. He could be an intriguing option, a 25.5% K rate against righties and a 20.8% K rate against lefties, 23.4% K rate overall. Kind of a mid-grade pitcher, nothing crazy, but he's priced at 8.3 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced down at 7.6. So, interesting option as a 142 favorite in a Kansas City Royals team that you could definitely target as far as K rate is concerned. He could be another one you're looking to in tournaments. You got Pablo Lopez taking on the Washington Nationals. He's a guy that's been expected to really have a breakout year and could be a viable option taking on this Washington Nationals team today. Only problem with him is he's really reliant on taking on right-handed heavy teams. He does a lot better against right-handed hitters as far as K rate is concerned. And when you're looking at this Washington lineup up and down, they do have a pretty nice blend of hitters. So will be interesting to see the lines on that. But I do think that Pablo Lopez is a viable option. Bumgarner, taking on Colorado, sure, you could go there if you want. I'm not really looking to target him. And then this is when things really dip down, guys. I mean, there's nothing really too exciting here. Philadelphia is a team that's been striking out a lot, taking on Marcus Strowman, who's a pitcher that's really good at keeping the ball on the ground. He just doesn't have a lot of K upside, but really disciplined pitcher, really good job at keeping the ball on the ground, sinker ball thrower that can go deep into games. And a Philadelphia team that has been striking out a lot. He comes in as a 154 favorite, priced at 8.5 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, he's priced at 8.4. I do think that he's a little bit more of an appropriate play on DraftKings, where you get the points deducted for hits given up and that kind of thing, being that he's such a good ground ball pitcher. No issues with you going to him on DraftKings specifically. FanDuel, you could go there as well. I just think I like him a little more on DraftKings in that format. And then down here in the cheap range, like you got Joe Ross taking on the Miami Marlins, maybe a matchup thing that you could target. A 19.6% K rate overall, good at the ground ball and the fly ball stuff. Does have a tendency of giving up some hard contact to left-hand hitting. 19 to 20% K rate, both sides of the plate. But like I said, this is when things just dip down. You got Wade Miley taking on Chicago, who's a team that strikes out traditionally quite a bit, but he's a lefty. I think they're a little bit better as far as strikeout rate against those lefties. And yeah, I don't know. Things dip down here. The last guy I would mention probably would be Mike Fiers taking on Baltimore just because they strike out a bunch. 16.1% carry overall. Doesn't really strike anyone out. That's just strictly a matchup thing. And I think we're ready to go ahead and transition over to hitting. As always, I like to go ahead and short my sheet by Sierra. It's a good way of figuring out how good pitchers have been, how good they're expected to be. Skill interactive ERA. We have Mitch White taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. He only has a 4 innings pitch sample size. And to be honest, he's not even confirmed yet as a starter, I don't believe. The Dodgers are the only team we don't really have confirmation on the pitcher. He's expected to go out there and start, though. And so far has been really bad. Maybe a Milwaukee stack is a little interesting tonight, but that's kind of just speculating, and we don't really have much data on him. So depending upon Vegas, what they release for a run line, that'll kind of help us as far as if we're really interested in that Milwaukee Brewers stack today. Mike Fiers taking on Baltimore. I just mentioned maybe pitching him, but clearly not the best pitcher in the world at all. Really bad across the board. Gives up a 434 slugging to righties specifically. Against lefties, he's not quite as bad. Against righties, he really gives up a lot of hard contact. The only problem is he's in not the best ballpark for the Baltimore Orioles aren't in the best ballpark for hitting. They only have a 3.76 implied run total, so I'm not really interested in that. Boston would be the first team that I have a lot of interest in taking on Kohei Arihara. Has been really bad. Strikeout rate's not there. The swing strike rate's not there. He gives up a 44.3% hard contact rate. That really stands out. A 553 slugging given up to righties, and then a 400 slugging given up to lefties. Has been really bad in this Boston Red Sox team. Has some guys that have really been hitting the ball well. They're on the road in Texas. Great hitters park. They have a 4.83 implied run total. Definitely could have some interest in this stack today. Enrique Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers. Of course, JD Martinez is probably my favorite, breaking down Arihara's numbers and the fact that he gives up a 553 slugging to those right-handed bats. JD Martinez really stands out as a great play today. You got Chris Flexon taking on the Los Angeles Angels. He's been real bad across the board. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's not good. He gives up a 422 slugging to righties, a 371 slugging to lefties. He is a lot worse against righties, which does make, of course, our interest in Mike Trout. You're always going to have interest in Mike Trout, but specifically the fact that he's worse against righties than lefties just makes us like Trout even more. They're in Seattle, not the best hitting environment, so Trout just more of a one-off play, not really looking to them as a full stack. Not really looking to Miami against Joe Ross. Jake Arrieta in Cincinnati and Wade Miley, they're in the same game here. And they're in the Great American Small Park, as we like to call it, in Cincinnati, the Great American Ballpark. But great hitting environment. Right now, this game has a 9 implied run total. Looks like there's 16-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center. I'll pull up the diagram for you guys, as always, to give you a little bit of a visual here as far as how Cincinnati fares for hitting. Lots of home runs to be had. As you can see, green on the chart. That's why we call it the Great American Small Park, and definitely could be targeting some bats here today. 4.5 implied run total for the Cubs, taking on the lefty and Miley. We're going to have interest in the guys that really match left-handed pitching, so most notably Nico Horner, Willson Contreras, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. Chris Bryant and Javi Baez would be the top options by far. In the bottom order, they also have some guys that hit lefties pretty well, most notably Matt Duffy and Jake Marisnick, so could have some interest in the Cubs stack. And then, as mentioned, Jake Arrieta taking on Cincinnati. He's definitely a guy you could target as well. A 370 slugging given up to righties, but most notably against lefties, he gives up a 503 slugging with a 367 WOBA. Really bad against those left-handed hitters, and we're looking at Cincinnati. They definitely have some lefties we could be interested in today in Jesse Winker, Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas. You're going to like those guys a lot, and you can definitely round out your stacks with guys like Nick Castellanos and Eugenio Suarez. Ton of power to be had in this Reds lineup, so I think they're a great stack today for sure. Chase Anderson taking on the New York Mets. He is less than impressive. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's not good. The K rate's not good. He's a 531 slugging given up to righties. Against lefties, he's a lot better, so he's a little bit reverse splitsy. That means we're going to have a lot of interest in a guy like a Pete Alonso in this New York Mets team today. In Philadelphia, pretty good hitters park overall. Looks like there's winds blowing like left to right at 29 miles an hour, so how that affects the ball flying is to be debated. I guess it'll drift away to right, towards the right. So if you pull it down the line and all the way, maybe it doesn't quite get out. But other than that, it's kind of just going to be neutral for me. Overall, if anything, maybe it'll help those balls hit to right center sort of deal. But as mentioned, really bad against right-handed hitting. So Pete Alonso, J.D. Davis, going to have a lot of interest in those guys. And James McCann, you can fill out your stacks with Brandon Nimmo, Michael Conforto, Dominic Smith for sure. But Chase Anderson is a lot worse against those right-handed bats. So we most notably want to target those right-handed bats. Next on the list, we got Tariq Skubal in Yankee Stadium. I had mentioned the wind's blowing out. Ground ball and fly ball rates are terrible. He has a 589 slugging going up to righties, a 388 WOBA, and ground ball and fly ball stuff's terrible. Against lefties, he's very good. He's a lefty himself, but the Yankees have a very right-handed heavy lineup. And guys that hit the ball very hard and guys that hit the ball in the air. So this is going to be a ridiculous spot for these New York Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, most notably, guys of power. I mean, the wind's blowing out at 26 to 30 miles an hour. We're talking in Yankee Stadium. If these guys get the ball in the air on what typically would be just a fly ball out, maybe to the deep outfield, the ball is going to be gone. So you factor in the wind, you factor in the hitting stadium, you factor in that these guys are all right-handed, and you factor in the matchup they have in Tariq Skubal here, and this is a scary good spot for the New York Yankees. I'm going to love every single righty that cracks the lineup, all up and down. I don't really care who it is. DJ LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Hicks, Clint Frazier, Kyle Higashioka. Love them all. You got Rougned Odor at the bottom of the order as a lefty. You could even throw him in your lineup. No issues with the wind blowing out. Just know that Skubal's been a lot better against lefties. He's a lefty himself. And yeah. Stack's looking scary good today, so like them for sure. We got John Mean taking on Oakland. Not really interested in targeting that game, as mentioned. The next guy that I really want to talk about is targeting is Drew Smyly, taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Really bad across the board. He has a 44.3% hard contact rate, a 498 slugging to righties, giving up a 43.9% hard contact rate, a 355 WOBA, 549 slugging going up to lefties, and Drew Smyly just sucks, in my personal opinion. I'd like targeting him with bats. And it's in Toronto, like as mentioned. It's in Florida, a great hitting environment. 78 degrees with 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, looks like. And this Toronto Blue Jays team is just loaded with right-handed power. George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Randall Grichuk, Marcus Semien, Lourdes Gurriel, Kirk, Espinal. Literally interested in every single one of these guys. I would say every single righty in the order down to Lourdes Gurriel. Alejandro Kirk and Espinal are a little underwhelming, but they're really cheap, and you can round out your stacks with them if you need the salary relief. So not against you playing them, just they're the last of my priorities in the stack. And Blue Jays definitely going to have some interest in them. Robbie Ray in the same exact game, taking on the Atlanta Braves. We had talked about how he's either really good or really bad, but he gives up a ton of hard contact, and the Braves are also right-handed heavy. So in the same game, 42.1% hard contact rate, a 484 slugging, 42.6% hard contact rate, 357 WOBA against right-handed bats. And the Atlanta Braves have a ton of guys you can target in this one. So we got the Braves, the Blue Jays in the same game, and they're both in similar matchups, taking on a lefty that give up hard contact, and they both have some right-handed heavy lineups. So Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, Ozzy Albies, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley, Heredia. Interest in every single one of those guys. I can definitely stack up the Atlanta Braves today. And then once we get past them, things get a little bit less enticing. You got Freddie Peralta taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. He gives up a lot of hard contact, and you can play them, but he also strikes out a bunch of people. Nathan Ivaldi taking on the Texas Rangers gives up a lot of hard contact, so I had mentioned playing him, but you could also play some bats against him. And lastly, Madison Bumgarner taking on Colorado gives up a lot of hard contact to right-handed bats. Colorado doesn't exactly have the most right-handed heavy lineup, but they definitely have some guys that can mash off left-handed pitching, most notably Trevor Story and CJ Cron in the 4 and 5 spot, or 3 and 4 spot. Really going to have to like those guys today because Bumgarner gives up a lot of hard contact. They're in Arizona, which is a great hitting environment. Pulling up the chart here, you can see home runs, triples, doubles, all pretty friendly in Chase Field. So definitely have some interest in those righties for the Rockies. And yeah, that's when things get pretty over. It's Ivaldi and Heaney would be the last two guys I would target. Ivaldi gives up a lot of slugging. We had mentioned maybe playing him against the Texas Rangers bats, but the Rangers bats could also give him some fits, I think. Willie Calhoun, Nick Solak, Joey Gallo, Nate Lowe, Garcia, Dahl in the middle of the order. Those guys all have power. And then Andrew Heaney, if you want to go to the Seattle Mariners, gives up a lot of hard contact to right-handed bats. 44.9% hard contact rate. Look at the Mariners lineup. They do have quite a few righties. Even though their strikeout rate's high, maybe they can get into a few balls and be a lower on stack that pays off for you. Guys like Mitch Haniger, Ty France, Kyle Lewis, Evan White, Dylan Moore, all right-handed bats that can maybe slug off the lefty tonight. So they're an intriguing option to go to. And that is pretty much my overall breakdown of this huge 14-gamer. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the night. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Aaron Judge taking on Tariq Skubal. I had mentioned his issues against right-handed bats. A 589 slugging, 388 WOBA, 61.9% fly ball rate, and a 20.4% ground ball rate. Yankee Stadium tonight, we have those 25 to 30 mile an hour winds blowing out. Ridiculously good hitting environment. And I can't emphasize enough, Tariq Skubal is allowing the ball to be hit in the air 61.9% of the time. Fly balls, that is a ridiculously bad number over a 51 innings pitch sample size. Aaron Judge, as far as how he fares against Skubal's pitches, he throws on average a 93 mile an hour fastball about 56% of the time, really relying on the fastball, and Aaron Judge features a 500 ISO with a 523 WOBA against that pitch with a 70% hard contact rate. Love this spot for Aaron Judge. Get him in your lineups. He's going deep tonight, and he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Aaron Judge, get him in your lineups. And that is all from me and this one. If you enjoyed the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That would be greatly appreciated. And then don't forget to check out my premium content link below in the description. Going to be well worth the investment, I promise. Go ahead and join the KJK DFS team over there on Patreon. And that is all from me in this one. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.